The world is a scary place right now. But the silly thing about saying that is, how would you know, just from opening this video, what space and time I was talking about? What part of history? Is it really as scary as World War I, World War II, the horrors of antiquity, the 1960s? There's so many options you could choose about what could be the scariest time. If I was to say it seems like authoritarianism is on the rise, that there's so many countries around the world that have dictators, there's so many people who seem to grovel to power to the point that they would justify their own version of 1984 so long as they felt like they were in the ruling class. Would that really be unique to this time? To make this a very USA, America-centric video, I feel like that is the different factor right now and what makes it feel like the world is particularly authoritarian. We used to have this concept of this country that was there to protect freedom, that was founded on this constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. They codified all of these things that they still talk about today that made it feel like they were an exceptional country that was helping the world out, just doing the right thing for everybody.
The past few days, when I've been at that window upstairs, I've thought a bit of the shining city upon a hill.
As someone from Britain or Australia or New Zealand are talking smack, you guys don't even have freedom of speech over there. Shit the f*** it. So I'm not going to get into freedom of speech in my country of New Zealand, which does exist and is codified, but just in a different way. It's part of an act of our parliament. But the point is, America as the country of freedom has had the sheen taken off it for a long time, but the atmosphere right now is that it's being shaved down to the bone. They did some really cool stuff, having a constitution, but other countries have caught up to a great extent on these questions of freedom of speech and liberty and liberalism. America is falling behind in so many different categories. There's so many areas that I could go into about things currently happening that make it seem that America is just an absolute chaotic mess at the moment. But the focus of this video is really about how it's come to impact the vast majority of Americans, that this system does not actually represent them. It represents a very small class of hyper-rich people who just want to have fantasies about getting into rockets while everyone else suffers and struggles. The mere fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter basically just for himself, an ego vanity project to be validated and worshipped by all of these random masses of people as the world's richest man, the thing that you really care about, is going on some side quest to get your own social media platform just so you can have people say how cool you are and how smart you are and how awesome you are. There's something so tragic about that. Oh please, the world's richest man, notice me on the social media platform that you bought for yourself. How can people live like this? It's just a screwed up world, and it's shocking the things billionaires get away with, hoard all of these resources and all of this attention, and manipulate the political system into what they want it to be. I recently did a short making fun of some of the formulaic punchlines of the YouTuber L Jokes, but he did have one skit that kind of rung true with me.
Dumb American. Thinks the world revolves around him. Stupid American.
When are you going to join the rest of us, Alex? When are you going to realize the world doesn't revolve around you?
Actually, no. I was just reading an article that says the entire American financial system just collapsed. No. Oh my god.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. No, I'm f***ed. I'm totally
Okay, maybe the world does revolve around you a little bit. Did you just...
Outside of the American-centric egotistical angle of that video, I related to the sentiment from a completely different angle, that people don't realize that the reason that people like me, for example, are often very interested in the US is because our economic futures and interests are tied up in the US, and our own government's always trying to work with the US and sing praises of that country. When the 2008 economic crash happened, that really screwed up the New Zealand economy, and I couldn't find work, and a lot of people couldn't find work. And it's also a total straw man that a lot of us hate America or hate the US. We want to see it do well. We want to see it thrive. That would help the world. It would help people in my country. It would help a lot of people. But we're often just sitting back being like, what on earth is going on? This is terrible. Whatever it might be, we kind of look to America to provide some sort of leadership or flourishing that will trickle down to all of the rest of us. This video will focus on a few human stories which have occurred recently in politics and how they relate to the sense that everything is utterly fudged. I bleeped that, but I actually said fudged. Particularly the political dialogue and dehumanization of political enemies related to death. The first thing I want to talk about is something that happened on September 10, 2025. Israeli attacks across the Gaza Strip killed at least 72 Palestinians amidst the ongoing offensive to capture Gaza City. 72 Palestinians, that sounds pretty bad. No, it wasn't that. American right-wing political activist Charlie Kirk is shot dead during a debate at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, United States. I didn't make a video at the time, but I really strongly wanted to talk about how I felt when it happened. I found out about it while I was watching this leftist-ish YouTube channel called The Vanguard. They tend to cover sort of political drama between different figures. It was early in the morning and I was lying in bed and I got a notification. I look at my phone, it said The Vanguard, Charlie Kirk shot at Utah University, or whatever the title they gave it was, and I was like, what is going on? So I had to grab my headphones and quietly listen to it. And like all those shows at the time, they were talking about what they had seen, but I had not seen that, and they were basically saying there's a lot of blood. Oh my god, that guy could not have survived that. That it was not safe for YouTube. And I was quite shocked because I've watched quite a lot of Charlie Kirk in the past. It's not exactly someone who I respected or looked up to. And in fact, there was quite a few times where I was like, you know, I really dislike Charlie Kirk. I do not think he's a good person. And he says some really shocking and terrible things.
This is my other problem with death penalty. It takes too long, too many appeals.
Expensive.
It should be public. It should be quick. It should be televised. By the way, you could fund the government
kids to watch it.
You could have like brought to you by Coca-Cola. What age should you start to see public executions?
16.
I think you could do it earlier. I think you maybe at age 12,
Whenever-
like 6th grade or so.
But to kind of not see it, but just hear it described, there's all of this blood coming out of the guy. That is a kill shot. I would be shocked if he was still alive. It was really strange to like listen to that and try to picture what was happening and then be like, well, maybe he's alive. Maybe he survived that. They took him to hospital. Maybe he's okay, because I don't really know what they're talking about. And obviously, at some point you want to see it yourself because you want to know what they're talking about. So I looked it up on x.com, on Twitter. For some strange reason, like that was the easiest place to find it. Is that what the free speech and getting rid of censorship Elon Musk was talking about? Openly showing videos of a prominent conservative activist being shot in the neck and blood going everywhere because it was all over X. That's where everyone could find it. X was basically like the Charlie Kirk being openly and flagrantly murdered in great bloody detail channel for a day or two. But when I saw it, I was stunned. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe what I'm seeing. It was everywhere, wall to wall, just the execution of a human being, like the carnage of someone being killed. You just see it get played over and over and over again. Couldn't really escape it for some time. You definitely began to feel more desensitized. Besides the obvious initial shock of just seeing that happen, the three sort of more purposeful thoughts that I had were these in this order. First thought I had was, this is very bad for political dialogue. It's not good to have people just going around killing others for their opinions, no matter how terrible and no matter how bad those opinions are.
MLK, in my personal opinion and based on every objective analysis, he actually gave us more race focus and less emphasis on character and conduct. Because here we are 60 years later. Do we talk about race less or more in the last couple of decades? I'm not only blaming MLK for this, but his core driving philosophy was not about a colorblind society. That is a line in one of his speeches. He would actually be closer to a race Marxist, almost akin to a DEI type philosopher.
What a dick!
No matter how much you dislike that person or hate them or whatever it might be, if they're a bigot, if they're a terrible person, if they're a piece of crap, it's fine with me to say they're a bigot, they're terrible, they're a piece of crap. Protest that person, do not go see that person's events, get them banned from things, censor them, yes. Okay, because you can at least have a conversation about that. But if things are going to be solved by just shooting and killing, particularly in a country like the US where there's so many frickin' guns, a very big issue. That was one of my first thoughts as well. That sort of ran through some of the thoughts that I was having. Then this is really bad, and I'm really concerned about many of the prominent creators and commentators that I listen to. They could be in the line of fire, and they must have been feeling really scared and really terrified. Who knows when some psycho person's going to take a shot at you? Charlie Kirk was a controversial individual, and you've got people saying, like, where did he ever say that was controversial? You just have to like look up the stuff that he said. I kind of don't believe people who say that. It seems kind of disingenuous.
But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
Everyone's like, that's really ironic because he was killed, so was he just like watering the pages of the Constitution to keep them fresh? Needless to say, he had horrible opinions, particularly about minorities and, you know, all of the usual right-wing crap about this identity's bad and immigrants this, and black people, criminals, women, you know, gay people, trans people, blah, blah. Oh yeah, and Muslims. He hated Muslims. But that doesn't mean that I wanted the guy to be executed publicly on film for everyone to see, or killed at all. I don't want people to be murdered just because they have points of view that I do not like. And I don't celebrate that. I'm not the kind of person to think that's really cool. So that was my first thought. This is really bad for politics. It's just not a good thing. The second thing that I thought was just the human reaction. I was like, that is so bad for his family. It's so bad for his children. I've recently become a parent, looking at my little baby and just thinking, it would just be so sad for him to grow up without a father. That really sucks. Charlie Kirk had 2 young daughters, and I've seen videos of him with his daughters, and it seems like he was a loving father. I think it's really horrible. They were starting to get to know this person as their dad, and now he's gone. And I also felt really bad for Erica Kirk. That was my second reaction. It just felt sad to me. The third reaction, and the longest lasting reaction, because it's the one that you can see the most over time, was how is this going to be approached by the right? What is this going to turn into? How are they going to use it? How are they going to spin it? What kind of messaging are they going to put out there about this? It's kind of related to the first point, that this is really bad for political dialogue. There was not as much grief about Charlie Kirk as there was anger against the left and against people who disagree with them politically. If you went on X after the initial shock and, oh my god, I can't believe this, they're killing people, this is insane, it turned into kind of what you might expect from a platform like X, which was the left are demonic, they all hate Charlie Kirk, they are psychopaths, we cannot work with these people because they want us dead, the left are evil, they're the most evil people in the entire world. Everything we've seen leading up to this point just tells us they are evil. Their souls have no light inside them. They want the right dead. They want all conservatives dead. Everything that they ever do is just about, we must kill. I'm running out of ways to say evil. Just evil. Yeah. Demonic. Yeah, I already mentioned that one. Needless to say, the legacy of Charlie Kirk, at least amongst the right, appeared to be one of extreme division, extreme hate, extreme anger towards the left, because the left are always destroying everything. And that leads me to the next point in this video. The post-Charlie Kirk atmosphere after that all happened, way back in 2025. It was a long time ago. The feeling at this time was somewhat summarized by Shoeonhead, someone I haven't talked about for a while, who released a video called These People Are Sick. The thing about this video is that there's not really anything that I could complain about in the actual video in terms of what she talks about and what she shows.
He could have every single one of my or your opinions. It ultimately doesn't matter. One person may have pulled the trigger, but then we saw the reaction of many.
We think that Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, ah.
I'm not saying she deserved it, but I'm saying God's timing is always right.
And goodness knows.
Yo, they got Charlie Kirk, bro. I've never been happier.
Never believe the reason I'm smiling. And it has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. Nothing to do with...
I would say pour one out for Kirky boy, but I don't waste good beer on little bitches.
Rest in peace, bozo!
Millions of people in this country apparently believe the acceptable response to speech they don't like is murder. This wasn't just a bunch of fringe blue hair SJWs or whatever. They were teachers, professors, doctors, HR workers, healthcare workers, nurses, pediatricians, people who work with kids. Maybe I was just blind up until now. Maybe they changed. Maybe I changed. Is everyone going crazy or am I going crazy? I don't know. All I know is it is clear how they reacted to this is how they would react to me, my family, my friends, you, your family, your friends, that have ever stepped out of line from the nebulous, ever-changing definition of progressive. Your friend wouldn't celebrate you being murdered, of course. But if they would celebrate an exact clone of you that wasn't you, that had all the same opinions, or some of the opinions that you have, if they would celebrate that clone being murdered, they're not your friend.
Siobhan Head talks about how black-pilled that made her and how she feels like she can't trust people because she doesn't know if they want to murder her. She's kind of shocked about how indifferent all of these people are to Charlie Kirk. Not just indifferent, but like actively enjoying the fact that he got killed, celebrating, having a great time about it. And the video is quite emotional. It's kind of personal because she's giving her sense of how it makes her feel, which is valid because, you know, if you've got your own feelings, it's the way you feel about it. It's fine. But after watching that video, I just came to feel that Siobhan Head and a lot of these people who are really shocked by this seem to not understand the effects of the dialogue on the people that it is basically happening to. Everything is just conversation. Everything is just people talking, giving ideas. But do people stop and look at what those conversations are actually about? When you have a conversation over and over again about how trans people are doing this wrong, doing that wrong, we hate this about immigrants, Muslims are doing this wrong, we hate this about them, the left doing this wrong, we hate them, we hate them, we hate them, and there's an administration which is doing things like overthrowing Roe versus Wade so that women do not have abortion rights, an administration that is basically stripping away healthcare from people, preventing them from actually being able to live their lives the way they want to. They can't afford things if they get sick. They can't afford things if their children get sick. The people are being belittled and trashed and treated like garbage every single day, over and over and over again. You don't think there's going to be a certain amount of the population which is going to say, we also hate you? We hate you for what you have done to us and what you keep saying to us?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Siobhan Head and other people turn around and say, oh my god, it's not a game? All of the stuff that we've been saying actually has an impact? Now I'm scared because I didn't know people were taking this seriously? To me, it shows a lack of awareness, a lack of understanding. It's kind of like the frog in the water, which is slowly heating up. The frog is like, oh my god, the water's boiling, but it's too late. It's already been boiling. The video is like a strong reaction to Charlie Kirk being killed because it was a terrible thing that happened, but it's also a reflection of an inability to understand that people actually take the things that affect themselves in their lives seriously. And it seems like the right works on this attitude of ramping up constantly, just keep ramping things up, ramping things up. It's about authority, it's about control, it's about dehumanization. I mean, oh my god, the stuff that they say and do about immigrants is ridiculous. And then Siobhan Head is like, why do they hate us? Why? And it's not even true necessarily that the left does hate you. They're just sick of the bullcrap. They're sick of this stuff. Why did Siobhan Head believe that the political dialogue was going so well? It's just shocking to me. It doesn't make any sense. How long does the left have to say that they care about certain things before the right notices? It doesn't matter what the left says. The right hates their guts. And then people are shocked that there's some people on the left who are mentally unstable and who hate the right as well. The political situation as it is now under Donald Trump is a dog-eat-dog world. It's a world of mutual hate.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Everyone is just boiling. But that video led to the next phase of the conversation about what happened to Charlie Kirk. And this is where I start talking about the prominent liberal Destiny. I think Destiny is a very problematic individual. It's confusing to me because I've watched a lot of Destiny's content. I've seen a lot of his debates, and I think we actually have very similar politics. Both of us are liberals. We both have a very similar sense of how society works. We both don't really agree with leftists who have a very idealistic view of the world, who believe in things which are very difficult to countenance as being what could or will happen, but sound nice in theory. A big issue I have with Destiny is just the way that he approaches these conversations. When you see him debating with historians about Israel-Palestine, it seems like his number one prerogative is to come up with reasons as to why the Palestinians and the Gazans did something back in the past that means that the current situation is justified. And it's like, you can't actually justify killing this many children. You can't really justify leveling that many buildings. I don't care about how many facts and historical historical tidbits of information he comes up with, you can't justify what has been done to Gaza. You can't justify the current situation. It seems like his whole attitude towards it is, I will collect as much information as I can and then just use that information to justify the actions of Israel when we're living in a world that exists right now. And I understand the people on the pro-Gaza side will go back to history, obviously, and if I ever got in a conversation with Destiny, which is unlikely because I don't think I want to do those kinds of conversations because I'm a coward, I'm sure it would come up. You want to talk about the Nakba and you want to talk about the historical oppression that's occurred. I think that's modified by the modern situation and the ideals that we want to live by and that we want to see happen, which is human flourishing, well-being, freedom, etc. To the point it would just be another navel-gazing conversation about coulda, woulda, shoulda. Why will I give him credit when it's possible that he predated on minors in his chats? And also he's obsessed with using the R-slur or R-tard. He's very ableist. So I think I've probably underplayed the really terrible and shocking things about Destiny. But I have to say, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, he was my spirit animal. He was saying everything that I was thinking. And it was also very brave that he was going out and doing public events at universities and at campuses right after Charlie Kirk was killed, directly to people's faces.
Not half as many as you, sir. Oh, your mic's not on.
Jesus.
And I think people were tuning in to those conversations and those debates wondering, is Destiny going to get killed? Is he going to be murdered? So I'm in a confusing space where I agree with him politically. I really hate his views on Israel. I think he's a very problematic and screwed up human being on a personal level, and he's got a lot of scandals. And if you dig in to the things that he's really done and try to figure them out, it's probably not going to be good. But he was by far the most salient person after Charlie Kirk was killed. Most of all for his appearance on Piers Uncensored. He got a lot of hate for this, but I really thought he crushed it. He absolutely said everything I was thinking in this conversation.
And you then posted yesterday, ending every Conservative debate call out I do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro. That's not what Charlie would have wanted." I mean, do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes. I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family, who was a 22-year-old white dude.
Described.
He wasn't
Destiny.
trans. He didn't have a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys were wrong on all of that.
I thought it was really good how they just wanted him to be shamed and to feel really bad, like the death of Charlie Kirk was his fault. But he was basically like, my behavior is a reflection of the era that we're living in. We're living in an age of ugliness.
Take down the flags. Why are you taking them down? For ex-Congressman Bingo. Oh, okay. Do this, do that, do that. Rotunda, everything. I gave him everything. That's okay. I don't want anything for it. I don't need anything for anything. She calls me up. It's the nicest thing that's ever happened. Thank you so much. John would be so thrilled. He's looking down. He'd be so thrilled. Thank you so much, sir. I said, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Maybe he's looking up. I don't know. Let's assume he's looking down.
Where people do not care about each other, and I am a left reflection of what that is. I'm just showing you the mirror of what this society has become. Although I wouldn't do that myself, because I would be like, it's really bad what happened to Charlie Kirk, and I would be really sad about it. To Piers Morgan, that would give him an advantage over me because he'd be able to use my empathy and sympathy for Charlie Kirk's death to try to blame the whole left and just say, I'm really sorry that I had my opinions and I thought the things that I thought. I just appreciated how Destiny was out there saying, I'm not apologetic, because I understand that this outcome is a reflection of the Trump era.
Why can't the president say, we should all be less violent?
Right. Because you can't even condemn the cold-blooded execution of Charlie
Donald Trump
Kirk.
turns on Destiny.
I don't think you're in the position to demand anything from anybody
on YouTube. That's how I'm going to take my.
You're
my
not in any
pointers,
position to condemn anybody for anything. You won't condemn a cold-blooded
He's the president
murder.
of the United States. He's the president of the United States. No one here can answer that question.
Basic humanity says the murder was horrific.
Can't say
why can't
all
you
of us
say
need
it?
to be less violent.
Why can't
Democrats
you say
have been
it,
saying
Destiny?
for over a decade.
To say the murder was horrific and unacceptable.
Why can't Donald Trump say it?
You can't do
why
it,
does no
can
one
you?
hear any words for Donald Trump?
All right, Anarchist
What do you have for
Barron.
Donald Trump? Nothing exactly.
Anarchist Barron.
Because somebody on the left did it, you think it's a reflection on the left, but you're not seeing the wider climate. Destiny was bringing unapologetic liberalism to the conversation. I will bring it down when Donald Trump brings it down. Having the foresight of 4 months later, has that happened? No. No, that has not happened, no.
Anarchist Barron from TYT also appeared in this conversation. She really went at Destiny, but to me, it was kind of like a bit of noise.
I have all sorts of disagreements with the right. That doesn't mean I'm going to dehumanize them and cheer on the slaughter of my fellow Americans because we have disagreements on politics. You're embarrassing.
I wish anybody here had the same energy for the president of the United States, but that's good. I'm glad you guys are focused where it really counts on Twitter and
Dude,
YouTube.
you have
the
like
conservatives want you to be
TDS,
focused
like
on, you know?
you are like the prototype
TDS,
of TDS.
yeah, there it
it's
comes, yeah.
unbelievable.
The
You wake up
TDS,
every
yes.
morning and you decide your
Yes,
behavior is going to
true.
hinge on Trump.
Yeah, she just thought that his jokes and the stuff he was saying about Charlie Kirk was disgusting and gross. But that's kind of like Destiny. He does disgusting and gross things. Like, that's part of my issue with him. But it doesn't really seem like getting that angry at him has much of a purpose. I don't think she offered much in that conversation except just being really bothered by and annoyed by Destiny. So I guess she got kind of triggered. But I respect that she had that point of view and she felt strongly about it. Not much to do with that. And I think Destiny is really good at playing that kind of game of gathering the views, gathering the controversy, gathering the scrutiny, and using that to his advantage to become kind of like a boogeyman on the left. Like, he's very good at that. That's part of the reason why he's so popular. And also, obviously, he is very well informed, even if he uses that power for evil at times. One of the most interesting parts that I have to mention was this guy, Jack Posobiec, who was purportedly one of Charlie Kirk's close friends. His appearance on this panel was very interesting to me. He's in his dark suit. He's looking very stern, disappointed. I'm in mourning. I'm really struggling because my friend Charlie Kirk was killed. And he comes in and he just says Destiny's behavior is disgusting. It's vile. It's so horrendous after the death of my close and very good friend Charlie Kirk. I'm truly mourning. I'm truly suffering right now. And he might have been. I don't know. Because I feel like the grift of these right-wing people, it interacts in strange and confusing ways with their actual real and true feelings. Maybe Jack Posobiec really was mourning in that moment because it was right after his actual friend Charlie Kirk was killed. But then they come in and they be so political and they be so partisan that you really start to get confused how much of this is genuine about the Charlie Kirk mourning and how much of it is a show. Oh, the left, the left, the left, the left, the left.
Well, this is kind of insane. I thought it was going crazy, but I could swear that in this debate there was a mention of Jack Posobiec's book Unhumans. But no matter how much I scrolled through it, I could not find it. I went to the comment section and I found a comment that I wrote where I said, wow, I can't believe you wrote a book called Unhumans. So I know it must have been mentioned in there. So I asked ChatGPT if you can edit videos after they've already been uploaded, and apparently you can. So that may have been edited out for some reason, but I must have found out about that book somehow. I could have sworn it was in this conversation. When Posobiec comes in and Destiny's like, yeah, let's bring in the author of Unhumans. And then Posobiec's like, you are unhuman, Destiny. You're exactly what I was talking about. I swear it existed.
But he says Destiny is disgusting, and then Destiny immediately points out, oh look, let's hear from Jack Posobiec, the guy who wrote the book Unhumans about the left. And I was like, Unhumans? What's that? So I looked it up, and Jack Posobiec wrote a book called Unhumans, The Secret History of Communist Revolutions and How to Crush Them. The core thesis of the book is the American left intends to terrorize and subjugate the United States under a communist dictatorship. In their telling, these people are unhumans, too twisted and malicious to be allowed the status of human beings or accorded human rights.
You sound insane. Do you realize that?
And it's like, hold up, wait a second. You're saying that Destiny is such a horrendous and bad person for the way that he will not kowtow to this idea that he has to be so apologetic for the death of a political opponent. He literally wrote a book about how the left are not human beings. They're not humans. They're unhuman. And it's very brazen for him to come on and say, it's really awful the way people are talking about Charlie Kirk. When you write a book like that, where you're basically just saying that, not basically, you are saying they're subhuman. They're subhumans. You can't see them as human beings. How can he come on and have this lofty attitude when he's also like incredibly dedicated to the right-wing project of just creating disharmony and basically political warfare between the political sides? He should have come out and said, I apologize for writing the book Unhumans, and I'm going to try to get it removed from stores, because that really didn't help this whole situation, and I can see how I've contributed, and I feel quite bad about that now. But that would require self-reflection, because no, to say that would be to admit some sort of fault, and that's not possible. And I just think with friends like these, who needs enemies? Like even Donald Trump struggled to even maintain interest in the topic of Charlie Kirk's death.
My condolences to you, sir. My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
And that was so sad to see. It kind of made Charlie seem like a bit of a pick-me, as they say. Donald, you're the greatest, you're the best, you're so awesome, I love you, Donald, you're so good. He gets killed. How does Donald Trump react? Yeah, you know, Charlie Kirk, yeah. Anyways, have you seen the new ballroom? It looks really amazing. La-di-da-di-da, I'm off to some other country. I'm gonna go work on my ballroom. Gonna go drink some Diet Cokes. Does it really seem like he gave a single crap about Charlie Kirk? Imagine pouring that much of your love and respect and attention wanting and validation into an individual like Donald Trump, only upon your death for them to be like, it's really difficult for me to suppress how obviously indifferent I am and uncaring about this individual I was. Just a sad ending to Charlie Kirk's life. Sure, there's a lot of bluster, there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of focus on the death of someone like Charlie Kirk, but ultimately, what did it all amount to? He can become some kind of martyr or something. The overall malaise and indifference among the right to Charlie Kirk's death is just very strange to me. Very unhuman. On the right, they just don't expect, particularly these days, very much quality in their commentators. It's a very, very low bar for entry to be a right-wing commentator these days. Here's a couple of recent examples.
Why is California trying to essentially push out the billionaires by imposing another 5% tax on these people, when billionaires are literally the one who create opportunities and they create jobs for people? Yet the people who you support, because you say you're left-leaning, are the ones pushing them out.
Well, billionaires are choosing to leave because they don't want to pay an extra 5%, which should kind of tell you what billionaires are about, right?
Yeah, because they're not able to then pay their employees as much. LOL! I thought that was kind of messed up of you to not publicly denounce what happened to Charlie Kirk.
I did.
I never saw anything on Instagram.
What am I supposed to say?
You never shared anything.
I interviewed the guy who was debating him while it happened, and I mentioned a bunch of times that it was horrible, and it represented like one of the worst pivots in American politics ever.
And I didn't even watch the interview because I didn't want to watch that.
Well, you should watch it.
I don't want to.
Why? It's historically relevant.
It is historically relevant. I did lose respect for you when it felt like you went silent.
Well, you should watch the video because I say some stuff in it.
Okay, cool.
Who do you think are the 3 most benevolent billionaires?
What do you mean by the word benevolent?
Just well-intentioned, positive billionaires who you think are creating, net positive societal progress.
Trump, our president. I think he's a good one.
They have people who are dumb as rocks, basically leading their movement and pushing the politicians to do even more intolerant things, to create even more fear about immigrants coming in and sucking money out of the system. But when you talk to them, they're like, benevolent, what's that? Oh, someone who's good and has good intentions. Oh, Donald Trump is blah, blah. And it's like, well done, here's hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're a thought leader. I watched the fraud video about the Somalian daycares doing fraud and taking lots of money, and no fraud is actually shown or proven in that video. A lot of it is just based on suggestion and uncertainty. It seems kind of mysterious how these buildings seem so closed off and we can't really see children coming or going, though he didn't seem to go to those places during pick-up and drop-off times, so that's pretty redundant. If it's a building where the children are like inside the building and you can't actually see them from the outside, you would go at pick-up or drop-off time to see if children go in and out of that building, not just take the guy's word for it that you were going around with, who said that he never saw any children. Like, maybe he hasn't seen children, I don't know, but that's just like one guy that's hearsay. You could see it for yourself. It seems like he knew the operating times of those businesses, but he talked about how that was shady, how they operate from 2 to 10. There's really no pleasing someone like Nick Shirley in this situation. It just seems like something that he could have proven definitively and kind of chose not to. So this whole fraud concept is now quite ambiguous because the video is not really proving what it says it proves. It's quite crazy how this massive scandal is occurring occurring because this guy made a really vague YouTube video. And that's how it's often very easy for the right to create these conspiracies of suggestion. There's gotta be something going on here. But very rarely do we actually get the facts and the truth of the situation. If there's some corruption of some kind, this video doesn't seem to approach the topic in a way that comes at it with a lot of integrity and truth-telling and facts. And then you've got Pearl, who's all of her debating is basically, she says something terrible about women and someone says, well, how do you justify that given this fact? And she's like, stop nagging me.
Who cares what percentage women make up of the police force?
Yeah,
They're in the
they
police
can't-
force.
they
My
can't-
sister-in-law's a cop, actually.
They can't do the same jobs. There's videos on the
You
internet
should see my
everywhere of
sister-in-law.
women getting their guns taken because they're not strong enough.
Are you just making things up? Pearl, what are you doing? Like, seriously. Next question.
Do you realize how good you have it in this country?
Absolutely. Best country in the world. This country has the highest maternal mortality rate of any developed country, so a lot of women do die as a result of pregnancy and childbirth, yes. This is painful, man. Do you have any other questions for me?
Not right now.
Make it stop! Fantastic. Make her a prominent voice on the right. She really seems to know what she's doing. You know, she's very impressive. She just froze when she didn't know how to handle the conversation because she didn't really have any points or anything to say. She just got stuck. She just kind of ran out of substance, so to speak, because she lacks it. So at a certain point, she just hits a wall because there's nothing really more that she can say. Someone's saying facts to her and she's like, I've got nothing. Like, there's nothing she could do but keep repeating assertions because she doesn't have facts and information backing her up.
How much is that informing where you're coming from in this debate is the real stories of people who have been hurt by this stuff?
I mean, I've interviewed 1,000 people. I interviewed a guy who had his kid transitioned and there was nothing he could do about it. I interviewed another guy and he spent $300,000 trying to get his kid back. He actually went overseas to Ukraine during the war, just trying to be in his kid's life. So yeah, it impacts it a lot.
Then she goes back on her show and tries to attack Anna Kasparian and talk a lot of smack.
There was a point where I did want to throw hands. I'm not going to lie. She's like 5'1".
And it's like, how can you talk smack when you just got completely destroyed by yourself because you suck? These are the anti-feminists and these are the right-wing documentary makers that we have these days. It's just degenerating further and further and there's really no bottom. The standards over there just get lower and lower. Before we move on, I have to talk about the Mormon church shooting that occurred not long after Charlie Kirk's shooting. This guy called Thomas Jacob Sanford went into a Mormon church, opened fire, and killed 4 people. It was a guy who had Trump signs outside his house. He was riding around in his pickup truck, very right-wing. He was giving very right-wing opinions and slogans. And in this situation, they were like, we don't know if he's really right-wing. We don't know what this kind of guy is. He had a sign next to his house that said Trump because he supported Donald Trump, but it was on top of a stop sign. So it said Trump, but then stop underneath. And they literally tried to argue that it was Trump stop because he wanted to stop Trump because he didn't like Donald Trump. Nobody that supports Trump could possibly kill or hurt any other person. And this is the asymmetry. If they can find any connection between you and the left or anti-Trump sentiments, the entire left is evil. They are demons. They are the most terrible people in the entire world. But if they can find one tiny little speck that the person is not pro-Trump, then who knows? Piers Morgan's response to this was a video called Christians Under Attack? That would not give you any idea about who the guy was, about what his motivations were. It's just who he killed, so they're like, wow, this is about people persecuting Christians. It's got nothing to do with the guy being a Trump supporter. It's got nothing to do with that. But when it came to Charlie Kirk, everything was just like, the left are demons. He posted this debate between people talking about Christianity and what it's really about, and that was it. That was his coverage. He didn't talk about the guy. He didn't
didn't really talk about what happened. Going back and trying to research this, it's really hard to find any information. Thomas Jacob Sanford. Yes, that's who the guy was. But he was a MAGA shooter. And they just cover it up. They just don't talk about it. He killed 4 people. But seriously, the conversation is, are Christians under attack? Because he killed 4 Mormons and was a Trump supporter.
And he had been pictured wearing a Trump t-shirt with the slogan, "Make liberals cry again," which may be an indication that he wasn't anti-Trump. We just don't know, as things stand, what his motivation was for this. As so often with these kind of incidents, I always think it's prudent to take a beat and just try and see if more information comes out as to why he may have done this. But Trump has gone out there on the attack, as he often does, and said, this is an attack on Christians. What do you feel?
He was wearing a Trump shirt that said, "Make liberals cry again," which means he wasn't anti-Trump, but we have to take a beat because we never really know what the truth is? This is his video about the Mormon church shooter. He had like 5 panels about Charlie Kirk about, is the left doing the right thing? Oh god, this is the asymmetry in the media. But I've been talking for a long time and I'm very ambitious. I thought I was going to cover everything I wanted to talk about, but it's not going to happen. I'm too tired and it's too late. Here's the second part of the video. Donald Trump's disgusting reaction to Rob Reiner's death. The disgusting and terrible reaction to Renee Good's shooting by ICE agents, particularly Tim Pool's reaction on X. And since recording and editing this video, they've killed a whole new person, Alex Pretty, so I'll have to talk about him. I can't promise how many people ICE are going to kill before I release part 2 and a conclusion, but I'm way too tired. I'm not going to get to it. So I don't want to do a video where I change clothes and the entire lighting environment is different. So this will have to do for now. If you liked it, thanks so much. The original name for this video was, "Why is the Left Screwed?" I think it still stands. I'll do part 2 unless I move on to something else. Don't boil too much in the frog water.